Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to the Israel Brief, proudly brought to you by Lay of the Land. I'm Rolene Marks, bringing you the top stories every day, well, at least a Monday to Thursday, on this very platform. Don't forget, we are also on YouTube. You can check us out at the Israel Brief, and all you have to do is click on the big red subscribe button, because for every one of you that subscribes, it is much easier to tell Israel's side of the story. So without further ado, let's dive into those top stories. And it is the announcement that many of us who've been watching the race for the November presidential elections in the United States have waited for, and that is who is going to be the second on the Democratic ticket. In other words, who will run as Democratic presidential hopeful Joe Biden's VP. And he made that announcement yesterday, announcing that Kamala Harris, a senator from California, will be his running mate. Now, of course, here in Israel, we always ask the inevitable question, is she or he good for Israel? What does this mean? And so far, the odds look good for Kamala Harris. She is somebody who has a history, a record of being a very good friend to Israel. Her husband is Jewish. She actually does a very mean impression of her mother-in-law from Brooklyn. But also she is somebody who has spoken out quite strongly against BDS, that is the boycott, divestment and sanctions movement, and she is also very anti the Iranian deal, which is something that Prime Minister Netanyahu has been trying to educate leaders around the world about the dangers of entering into that deal with Iran. So as far as the Democratic ticket looks so far, it all looks very interesting. It's going to be quite fascinating to see how the race progresses from now on, as Biden and Harris come up against Trump and Pence. And all eyes will be on America for the next couple of weeks. But very concerning for us has been the fact that the squad, or the two rookie Congresswomen Ilhan Omar and Rashida Tlaib, have both won their primaries in their respective states. That's Missouri and Minnesota. And they are quite emphatically anti-Israel and pro-BDS. So things are getting interesting in the Democratic camp, and we will be watching with a lot of interest. Moving now down to Israel's south, and following at least 60 fires that were set yesterday as a result of arson balloons or incendiary devices that are attached to balloons and kites. The IDF struck Hamas targets overnight in the Gaza Strip. However, the IDF is investigating one missile fired from the IDF towards the Gaza Strip in response to these incendiary devices, and this landed very close to a cow shed. Thank goodness no cows were hurt, and only minor damage was given to the structure. The Mossad have also appealed to the Qataris to continue to let in financial aid towards Gazan citizens in a hope to de-escalate the ongoing crisis. And our final news story today, and we haven't spoken about it for the last couple of days, is Israel and the COVID-19 crisis. Over the last 24 hours, there has been quite a high rate of infections. We were really hoping those infections were starting to come down. Yesterday, outdoor activities or outdoor entertainment was allowed with restrictions, and many artists have said that they cannot perform under these kind of restrictions. So it's a very delicate balance right now, trying to find the best solution for all, and a lot of discussion and debate whether or not Israel will be ready for that proposed 16th of August opening of the skies. Hopefully it will all be on track. But let's take a look at those numbers. Since the start of the pandemic, Israel has seen 87,173 people infected with COVID-19, with 633 fatalities. At the moment, 24,963 people have tested positive, with 379 in serious condition, and 61,577 people have made full recoveries. And It was announced in one of the media yesterday that Israel's infection rate has surpassed China's. But, given that China is very, very secretive and doesn't release much information, I find this figure highly debatable. So those are the top stories making headlines right here in Israel, right here in a very, very hot Israel, despite the fact that we had a little bit of rain in Tel Aviv the other day. Quite unseasonable, but nothing gets people outside and more excited than rain in Israel in the summer. Don't forget, you can check us out online at www.layoftheland.online. You can read my article on the Uyghur people in China, how this ethnic minority, mostly Muslim, are being really, really mishandled and abused by the Chinese authorities and now face a grave humanitarian crisis. It's also up on Facebook. While you're there, if you haven't already, please give us a like and a follow and share our content. We love it when you do. It helps to get Israel's narrative and our side of the story out to as many people as possible. We're on Twitter at Lay of the Land with the digit 5. And there's that YouTube channel I mentioned earlier. So with the Wednesday edition, it's hump day for many people around the world. We're closing in on the weekend right here in Israel. I'm Rolene Marks. This is the Israel Brief. We'll chat again tomorrow.